unbelievable wind and rain accompanied by 20 feet of storm surge, leading to power outages, destructions of buildings, trees, power lines, you name it, along with the warning to evacuate as soon as possible before this can even hit. This is serious, but no one could have prepared for the industrial fire that accompanied this storm. This industrial fire caused a shelter-in-place warning with over a 1-mile radius encompassing 3 cities to stay home, lock your doors and your windows, and turn off your air conditioning in the middle of summer. From what? Why was it so dangerous that they had to stay home? What was the problem, and how could that be a problem later in the future? Not only for our air, but even for water. Today, we're going to talk about Hurricane Laura and how it could have lasting impacts for that area to come as a result of that industrial fire. My name is Imari Walke, and if you are new to my channel, welcome, and don't forget to subscribe and leave a like or comment if you're interested in talking more about these subjects. I am an environmental engineer, and as an environmental engineer, I felt compelled to talk about this topic because it has a lot of implications for our human health, for our water quality, for our air quality, and really just touches on a lot of different subjects and even possible research avenues for other people interested in working in this field and really understanding what this might be a problem for in the future. So today I'm going to explain what happened in this industrial fire and how the result of that leads to complications in our air and water quality. Hurricane Laura is a Category 4 hurricane when it made landfall in Cameron, Louisiana on August 27th in 2020. This Cat 4 hurricane had over 150 miles per hour winds and just devastated the area, causing mass evacuations beforehand, including evacuations of this Biolab facility owned by Kick Custom Products. Kick Products makes chlorine for swimming pools and other disinfectant products. During the storm, this facility ended up becoming damaged by the hurricane and caused these chemicals to react and later decompose, which formed these fires. The result of the fires led to chlorine gas being released into those major cities surrounding it. Because of chlorine gas, there was a shelter-in-place order telling people not to leave their house because of the toxic effects of inhaling or even consuming chlorine. Let's just remind you that chlorine gas was actually used as a chemical weapon in World War I because it causes irritation to your lungs, to your eyes, to your throat. It is just not something you want to come into contact with. And it was just being released for the duration of that fire. Now, the EPA did do some air quality monitoring initially to see if there was chlorine or not, and the initial tests showed that there wasn't, but this cloud of chlorine is actually heavier than air itself, so it doesn't rise up and dissipate into the higher parts of our atmosphere. It actually stays close to the ground and ended up moving over to Lake Charles. It caused a closing of interstate highways because of the billowing of smoke that was staying in the area. And then it later, once it was around Lake Charles, it ended up dissipating and diluting into the lake. Now, this is good on the sense that it's no longer in our air and we don't have to breathe it. So, the immediate cause for concern is great for not having to breathe it in. But the real question is what's happening now that it's in the water? And just to inform you, this company doesn't just make chlorinating granules, it also makes trichloroisocyanuric acid. Both of these can be toxic if inhaled or ingested by humans or animals. And like I said, taking chlorine gas out of our air and putting it into water is good for the immediate impact of not having to breathe it in and being possibly dangerous. But diluting it in a lake full of natural organic matter has some untold consequences. And those include what are called disinfection byproducts. Chlorine, like chloramine and chlorine dioxide, those are all well-used products in the United States as disinfectants for things like our pool and our drinking water. But for the process of actually using these chemicals we have to go through rigorous cleaning of our water before we add disinfectants, because we're trying to really limit the amount of naturally occurring organic matter. Things like our dirt or cells or anything else. We have to go through that process of trying to remove as much of it as possible, because when interacting with this natural organic matter, these chlorines can form disinfection byproducts. And those include chemical classes like trihalomethanes, haloacetic acids, chlorite, even bromate. And those can number in the thousands. And we as environmental engineers are still studying all the different chemical combinations and what effects they can possibly have on the body and on human health and the environment when they're released. Some things we do know about these disinfection byproducts. We know that some of them can even cause cancer. Trihalomethanes have been linked to bladder cancer, which is why a lot of swimmers end up with bladder cancer, because they're exposed over and over again to compounds like that. And a great example of a trihalomethane is chloroform. You might have seen it in movies where they use it to knock somebody out and, take them away. But chloroform is also a gas that can knock you out. So if you're diluting chlorine gas in a lake that is teeming with natural organic matter, nothing has been cleaned out of this lake. There's nothing but living organisms and all kinds of dirt and goodness and sunlight to also increase some of those reactions. You're gonna get who knows how many different kinds of reactions that are going to form in this lake and possibly be harmful to the organisms that are present in the lake, and also maybe if you're swimming in the lake, or just later human health consequences of if you have to clean the water, it might be a little bit more exhaustive and intensive than intended. So this is also a really great area to study if somebody's interested in getting like a PhD or doing a research project, is studying the effect of what happens to this chlorine gas in the water over time and how those compounds are changing. And then even looking at any of the other compounds that might be present in this lake because of the hurricane. It's not just the fire that might be an issue or a source of pollution. It could also be anything from any of the damage happening in the neighboring cities, because stormwater will end up rushing into that area and bringing all kinds of things like gasoline coming from off the road, or anything else that is just running off into this lake. And this is just a great example of why we need to be more prepared for these really big storms, because climate change is not going away. We have to do everything we can about it. But in places like Cameron, Louisiana, where there are dozens of petroleum factories, oil and gas refineries, even chemical plants, these all have the potential to have huge consequences on the neighboring communities if they are damaged by these big storms. So that's just my thoughts on it. If you have any questions or comments concerning that, or even some thoughts of how scary this might be, please leave a comment down below. And don't forget to like and share with those you know. This was just one topic that came to mind because it occurred as an environmental health issue, and I just felt like I had to share that with you. So yeah, thank you for watching.